welcome back to Just Another Jeeper, Ohio YouTube channel. This is going to be part 3 of the Kaiser build. We're taking this 1969 M715 and putting it on top of a shortened 99 Ram 2500. Follow along, make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy cool builds and other Jeep content. Eventually we'll start wheeling that Cherokee again, but I gotta do some work to it. But yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a question, a comment, and follow along with this build. Alright guys, last video we got this all stripped. We got all this still. Waiting for people to come by it. I'm sure by the video goes up, hopefully it'll all be gone. But this video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting measurements. We got some measurements we need to figure out where we're cutting this thing. This video is all about cutting and welding the frame back together. So we need to figure out where we're cutting in this. And I don't like how we got 3 tiers of frame on the Dodge. That's going to make it a pain in the butt. So we got top, middle, bottom, and that might make it a little bit complicated, but we're gonna start to figure out where we're cutting. We already know we're taking about 29 inches out by wheelbase alone, which we'll double check that measurement at some point too. We need to take 29 inches out, and I really want to take it out right here behind the cross member, even though we might end up having to move the cross member. But yeah, so the measurements we need to get, I drew out a little picture over here. This is what we're working with. Let's take it over here to the truck so I can show you as we do it. So basically what I need to go get the measurements of is we're going everything off of the wheelbase of the truck, right? So the M715 bed, we want mounted in the same place on this truck as it is on the Kaiser currently, the Kaiser frame. So we're going to go out there, we're going to run a plumb bob to the center line of the axle. We're going to get this measurement from the front of the bed down to the center line of the axle, and then we'll know on this frame where we need to mark where the front of the bed is, right? Now I got my plumb bob hung, so this should be pretty damn close to the center line. That looks pretty damn close to me. Make sure the string's not touching anything. Going down it. And we're now going to mark right on the end of that string, so we don't have to do this step again. I'm going to mark right at the end of the string. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, but now we got a red mark at the end of the string. We're going to leave the string there. We're going to get a measurement from that red mark / the string to the front of the bed. Alright, so for the base measurement, my hand's shading it a lot, we ended up with 47.5, or 47 to the front of the bed. 47, and that's to the front wall of the bed, but there's a little lip up here from the shape of the bed, how it's got that little lip all the way around. Here, you can see it right there. And it is 48.5 to lip. But these other measurements I was worried about, so I can tell right now on this M715, this guy right here, 0 inches, and this is going to become a problem. And this guy right here, it's here, I'll just show you. So you guys know, let me get the shade, let me make it better. You know the Dodge frame, there's 3 steps in the back, right? It got 3 levels, right? And the axle's right here, and the cab originally mounted on this part. Well, Kaiser, if you look at the bend in the frame, it's all straight till you get to the axle hoop. And I suspect, and the just from eyeballing it, it looks like the mounts for the cab and the bed are at the same height or level all the way down. which might make my life hell, because the Dodge has so much variance between this and then this. Like the height between this guy and this guy is so much, and the Kaiser, it's none. This is gonna make my life hell. So we're gonna go ahead and get some measurement, and I'm gonna have to do some eyeballing. So what I'm gonna, yeah, this is just gonna be a mess. This is not gonna be as easy as I was hoping. So this is where all my best laid plans fall apart, and I just start getting measurements and start making a plan. All right, after a lot of measuring and thinking, I'm gonna try my best to explain the plan I came up with. So the problem with the Dodge frame is the 3 tiers, as we've talked about a couple times now. And basically what we need to do is get rid of this whole tier, because the shape of the M715 bed has that big old canvas loop for storing canvas, like the big canvas holder on the bottom. And I'll show you a picture of that right now, or a short video of what the bottom of the frame looks like right now. This is the problem we're dealing with right here. This is that canvas loop I'm talking about. You can see how much it extends down from the bottom of the bed. This is what we need to clear with the Dodge frame. And so because it has that, we need to get as far down, we need to get to that bottom level, like this lower level, before we get to that canvas loop, in order to have the cab and the bottom of the canvas loop, or just level mounting surfaces on this level. So we need to be at this bottom level before the canvas loop, the canvas storage. So this right here, as you can see, I already cut off one of these just to get a better representation. So I got a measurement. This is my little sheet to try to show you guys what we got going on. I got a measurement. So the canvas loop, the canvas storage comes down 10 1/4 of an inch. That was really just for my own idea. This is the measurement that's really important, though. This is actually supposed to end right here. So we have 40 3/4 of an inch from the center line of the axle, which is kind of how I'm basing the whole thing off. I'm basing the whole thing off the wheelbase. So there's the axle. From the center line of the axle to the front of the canvas storage, we have 40 3/4. So here we have center line of the axle marked on the frame, and I'm gonna get better, more accurate marks and remeasure all of this. And this is just for figuring stuff out, and we're gonna try to get this as accurate as possible. This is the center line of the axle, and so you come along the frame trying to keep the mount, and this is 40 1/4, I believe I have this marked as, because I want to give myself a little bit of extra space, and I'm trying to keep all the factory suspension stuff, so this is the amount of space I have to drop down to the lower level. So what it'll end up being is, I need to remeasure everything, but it'll be like 5 3/8 to 5 1/2 inches down we need to go in this short amount of space. So basically I have this line, you can't really see it, a little scribe line right there. Hold on, let me get some tape and maybe I can mark this out better. So basically my cut plan on this side is this. It'll be cut at a 45 right here to retain like forward and back strength, like if it gets hit. But the 45 needs to be done before the canvas storage, so that it gets down, because this the top of this tape line is level with the lower tier. So we're trying to get down to that lower tier before the canvas, which the canvas storage would be right here. And then we're going to cut 45, and we're going to cut a little hook and then down. So this will be a piece of flat, straight piece, and I'll probably put a 45 here because we do need this about 7 inches thick or whatever in order to match the profile of that. So we'll basically cut this up here. Oh, damn it. So we'll basically cut this up here, right at the back side of this, because that's where I determined it stopped bowing down. So right at the back side of that hole, we'll just do a straight cut on this front side, because there's plenty of room to fish plate it. And we'll have a straight piece of metal continuing this frame as far back as we need it. It'll actually end up in here somewhere. And that straight piece of metal will end up being this profile right here. And this will end up being the factory frame again. That way, if there's a failure, you go. I hear it's kind of up in the air that you want to try to zigzag or make a Z shape with your frame splices, because then a crack can't go all the way. But we're going to reinforce the crap out of this, so I'm not really worried about the front one. But this back one, I feel like it makes sense in order to do a 45, and then the fresh new frame, and then down, and we'll do a 45 to tie in the bottom too, for whatever we go over on that overhang. You'll see better when I start putting it together, but that's the cut plan. Basically, it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of hard to put what's in your head into words, but yep. So that's center line. This is where I want to end and be on the bottom level to clear the canvas storage, and this is the front of the bed. But this is irrelevant because this is for a previous plan I had. The important part is getting down to the bottom level before the canvas storage because of the weird shape of the bed. And I did all of this because I was going to walk you through how it's shaped now. But you guys are smart, right? You can see how it's shaped. You don't need pictures. But yep, that's the plan. Got all leveled out. So I'm going to go ahead and get better measurements both on the Kaiser and the truck frame. And when you see me again, hopefully I'll be cutting, unless I think of something else I need to throw in there. All right, now that we have a rough idea where we're going to cut, we know we're going to cut roughly right about here and right about here. We're going to go. So I got 8 of these. They call them RV leveler jacks. They're rated for 6,000 pounds a piece, but this bottom part's just like formed, or just like cast aluminum. I don't know if I'd trust them up to that, but we got 8 of them. And the plan is we're gonna level this whole bed out, this whole frame and drivetrain out perfectly using a bubble level. And then I've got a more fine adjustment angle level. We're going to try to level this whole thing out so all of these surfaces hopefully all sit parallel to each other, and we can level everything out long ways and sideways so that we have a good point to join. Like, we want the front half to be perfectly level, sideways and long ways, so that when we roll the back half up to it, this will be perfectly set level. And then we can level the back and we know exactly where it needs to be, and then we just square it up and we can make our new frame. Because we're going to have to, as you can tell, these are all pretty much fully extended and they don't quite reach high enough. So I went and bought a bunch of cinder blocks to space them all up. So we need to go unload the truck. The back is a little unlevel, and we'll just fix that after the frame gets cut apart, because the back is just a little bit off. But I have the middle's just about perfect. And I have side to side, and the middle 2 sections good, but the back, very back, is not quite good. I think there's a little bit of a twist in here somewhere. Something's a little funky because I was unable to get that back corner perfectly level. But yep. So now I need to do my string line stuff and figure out to run a string from the front to the back and figure out measurements and stuff for all that. So when I cut these apart, I can scoot the back forward and run my string line again and make sure everything's straight and square, and go off of the string line that I already have, that I got, like all my points I have on my string line that I got before I cut it apart. Alright, I'm going to start this with another reminder. I am no professional. This is just how I'm thinking about it in my head, how to do it. So before we cut, we want to verify that the frame is straight, right? So what we got going on here, we got plates held on by C-clamps going all the way down the frame to the front before it starts to bend for the front axle and motor and such. And I went through, this is part of the reason we went through and leveled the whole thing, is now that I know that the truck is level side to side, I can put these guys on, this guy on here. And as long as I'm within a degree or two from 90 all the way up and down it, like right there, we're dead on. And we'll just show you guys what's going on here. So as long as I'm within a degree or two of 90, I know I'm within a degree, I can run a string to the front, to the back, and put a reference as close to my cuts as possible. So this is going to be the one cut, and over here will be the other. And then I can just look up and down this string and I have a reference. So right there I know that it's lined up along the frame, and the same for here. So this is how we're going to tell that the frame is still parallel after we cut it. So I'm going to cut it, I'm going to run this down each side, and that's how I can tell that the frame is still parallel going down each side. I'll still find a spot to run like square it, like make sure the angle and the measurement matches, but this is just how we're going to make sure the frame rails are still parallel, by running a string line just like this down both sides of the frame. Alright, we got our cut lines all scratched in. So we got just vertical here. I know people say you don't want to do vertical cuts, but I'm really confident in my welder, and we're going to fish plate it, and we're also going to box it. We're going to do the box where it's not a seam right here. We're going to cut this off to back here, and this box is going to be different seams, if that makes sense. You'll see when we weld it all together. But front cut, ignore this back one, that was an accident, but the front one is what we're doing. Going on both sides. And then here is our front cut. I etched it all just so we could see it better while cutting. It's not in marker and stuff. So front one, we're going down this 45 to this line right here, which is in pin. I need to etch that. And then down. So this back cut is going to be like a little Z right here. And then when we put the top plate, and we'll box this side too. And it'll be nice and strong. We got that on the other side too. But now we just gotta start cutting. Alright, it's officially in two pieces. So now you gotta go through, make sure all these are nice and flat. Clean up, maybe bevel a little bit, make it a little better to weld. And this front, I'm gonna cut this inside support back probably 4 to 6 inches or so, and cut it off. That way when I build the new frame, we can put a fish plate on the outside. The inside, since this is a straight cut, which is, according to some people, big no-no, but I'm confident in my welder, and we're going to have a fish plate at least on the outside, probably on the inside and outside, and it'll have to fail in 3 spots even at that point. But even still, then we're going to offset box it, where directly over the outside seam is a solid piece, and it will run probably like 6 inches this way and 6 inches that way, and box it in right here. So it would technically have to fail in 4 spots on each side in order to break, even though it's a straight seam. So we're gonna get to that and get to work on that next. It's coming along. I'm learning what this does to the resale value now that it's in 3 pieces. All right, now that we got it cut apart, now's for all the fun measuring. We're gonna get this rear end scooted forward to where we need it wheelbase wise, and then we're gonna, well, probably first we're gonna probably cut this 6 inches back like I talked about, and then we're gonna scoot the back forward and get it where we need it wheelbase wise, and line it all up with the string line I already talked about, and we'll get square, find a spot in the front to get measurements to make a square, and then I'll keep it set there and start measuring for the pieces that we need to connect them up. Alright, so what we have going on here is we're getting a more accurate wheelbase. We just kind of threw the axle down and scooted it forward roughly to 26 going off the center caps. But I wanted a little bit more accurate. By a little bit, I mean a little bit more accurate. So what we did is we ran a plumb bob down from the back of the front tube, and and I put a line on the floor, and I know the front tube is 3 1/8 thick. So I put another mark on the concrete that is 1 9/16 forward, because that's the theoretical center of the front axle tube. I did this on both sides. Then we ran a tape going from our center point that you can't see because it's covered up by the tape measure. I ran our tape on the center point of the front axle, and then we ran the tape measure back, and we got the plumb bob back here. So it's on the front of the rear axle tube, and we know that the rear axle tube is 3 1/2 inches thick. So you divide that by 2 and you get 1.75. So you move the wheelbase you want. Since we're on the center line of the front axle, you move the wheelbase you want back 1.75 inches. We want 26, so we want this measurement to be 24 1/4. You run the plumb bob straight down, we got 24 1/4. You do that for each side, and then I came back to the other side after we shifted it. And so we now have within, and this isn't perfect, but this is within about 1/2 inch probably. And that's fine for me. I'm not no rocket scientist. So now we have the wheelbase we want, and now we're going to use our screw jacks again. We're going to re-level this whole thing and make it level with the front portion, so that we need to make the height the same and level the whole rear frame. And then, and only then, we'll be able to run that string line down the sides, parallel it up, triple check level, triple check wheelbase, and then we will be able to get measurements for these center pieces and all of the metal we're putting in to rebuild the frame. So this is roughly how much frame we're going to need to build. But we have to do all this first. So we need to, now we're going to go around. Maybe we'll run a string line real fast just to see how far off we are. And then we'll level it when we get the string line we want. And yeah, let's get back to it. Just running the string line real fast like I did before. You can see exactly how far off I am. So the rear is going to line up with this, and then I can bring the front over. Alright, I already took down some of the measuring and helpful devices, but we got the frames exactly where we want them. So now I'm going through and getting measurements for all my pieces I need to cut. And I'm going to cut them at work. We have a big shear. I don't know if I'll be allowed to record that. We'll see. But we'll cut some pieces of metal out on the shear. And we'll come back and we'll weld them together. We'll probably tack them together so I can be less paranoid about bumping this frame out of alignment. and then the welder will come along and burn them perfectly in. Here's our first piece tacked in. You can kind of start to see the shape in the new frame. We got 45 down there that's gonna tie into the bottom. We got 45 up here on top. I got these guys cut and bent at work. We got a nice shear at work. I'm gonna need to trim them up. I made them a little long. We got these guys to lay on top. Another long one that will go on the bottom. And again, I gotta trim them up, make them fit. And then we got this plate that'll go on the back to box it all in. It'll sit on the back here. Further down, that clamps in the way. Alright, here's the driver's side, pretty much all tacked together. I'm very happy with the gaps I ended up with. I'm not normally all that great with that. We got the bottom tacked on too. And so now I'm gonna just C-clamp the back plate on there for now. And I'm gonna get a CAD trace of my back reinforcement for this area so I can make that. And then we're gonna do all the same stuff on that side. Alright, so we got these nice welds ground flat. And we gotta get a fish plate on each side. Right about here. Tie in the back of the frame, the top, and the main piece with all these plug welds in order to just tie it in a lot better. And then on this vertical seam, we're going to put this fish plate like that to tie it in further front and back. Alright, this is where we left off. I gotta get these top fish plates in. We got one on the bottom down here. I gotta make one for back here. And then we got these plates to go right in here to box it in up to right there. Alright, the last piece I'm going to weld in is going to be the boxing. I already primed the inside so it doesn't rust, and I went ahead and put primer on the inside of the part I'm going to weld on too. And it's going to sit right in here. And it's going to box it all up and give another strength, offset strength point on the back side. And I cut some pieces to go back here, but I haven't decided if I'm going to use them. Well, let's get this welded up. If I want them. But that's going to be it for this video. We got the frame weld together. Next, we're going to, in the next video, we're going to start mounting body. We're going to pull the bed off the Kaiser, and we're going to put it on the new chassis. We're going to put it on the Cummins chassis. We're going to start mounting body stuff, and it's going to start coming together real fast then. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out. I have so many builds like this in my head that there's no way I can afford to do or have the time to do it with being just a regular 9-to-5 guy. So make sure you follow along, and maybe one day this channel can support itself and I can keep building cool shit. Maybe one day I'll tell you some of the ideas I have, but for now, stay tuned in this build. Make sure you catch the next one and all the ones below or before. This is part 3, and who knows how many parts we'll have to this, but this is part 3, and keep an eye out for part 4.